Hi there, friend. Let me ask you something. Have you ever woken up in the morning, looked around your quiet, cozy space, and wondered, is this really the best way to live at my age? Maybe you've heard people say things like, living alone later in life must be lonely. Or, don't you miss having someone around all the time? Well, today we're flipping that script. Because what if I told you that living solo after 70 isn't just okay? It's actually full of hidden joys and opportunities you might never have expected. Now, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. Life changes, and adjusting to a quieter house or an empty nest can take time. But here's the truth. This chapter of your life can be one of the most freeing, fulfilling ones you've ever experienced. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore 5 surprising benefits of living alone after 70. Little gems that might just make you see your independence in a whole new light. Let's start with the first one, rediscovering you. You know, for so many of us, our lives revolved around caring for others, raising kids, supporting partners, looking after aging parents. And while that love is beautiful, it's easy to lose track of who we are outside of those roles. But living alone, it gives you the gift of time and space to reconnect with yourself. Maybe there's a hobby you set aside decades ago, painting, gardening, playing an instrument, or perhaps there's a new passion you've always wanted to try, like writing memoirs or learning to cook dishes from around the world. I've heard from so many viewers who've told me, I finally signed up for that pottery class, or I turned my spare room into a library. And you know what? That's not just busy work. It's about reigniting the parts of your soul that make you feel truly alive. Take Margaret, for example. She's 78, lives alone in a little cottage outside Tucson, and last year she started growing succulents, something she'd always found fascinating but never had time for. Now she sells them at local markets and says it's brought her more joy and new friends than she ever imagined. Now, before we go further, I'd love to hear from you. Have you picked up a new hobby or reconnected with an old friend since living solo? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and your story might just inspire someone else to take that first step. And stick around, because coming up, we'll talk about how living alone can boost your confidence in ways you'd never expect, and why your quiet mornings might just be the secret to a happier, healthier you. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. You know, there's something incredibly powerful about realizing just how capable you are, especially when life hands you a little extra quiet. That brings us to our third surprise. Your confidence starts to soar. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Confidence? At my age? But hear me out. When you're the one calling the shots, whether it's fixing a leaky faucet, managing your budget, or even just deciding what's for dinner, you're proving to yourself day after day that you've got this. And that builds a quiet, unshakable pride. Take my friend Helen, for instance. She's 76, lives alone in Chicago, and last year she decided to learn how to use video calls to stay in touch with her grandkids. At first she told me she felt like she'd never figure out all those buttons. But now, she hosts virtual story time every Friday and even troubleshoots her neighbors' tech issues. She said, I never knew how good it'd feel to be the one people come to for help. And that's the thing. Living alone gives you room to stumble, problem solve, and ultimately shine. Maybe it's finally tackling that stack of paperwork you've been avoiding or trying a new recipe without worrying if someone else will like it. Every small victory adds up, and before you know it, you're walking a little taller. Now, I'd love to pause here and ask, what's your confidence win lately? Did you finally master your smartphone? Start a project you'd been putting off? Share it below, because your story could be the nudge someone else needs to take that leap. All right, let's move to our fourth benefit. Your health becomes your priority. Now, this one's a game changer. When you're not juggling someone else's schedule or preferences, you get to design your days around what you need. Feel like sleeping in a bit? Go for it. Want to take a leisurely walk after breakfast instead of rushing? That's the beauty of it. You're in charge of your rhythm. And here's where those quiet mornings come in. Without distractions, you can create rituals that nourish you. Maybe it's sipping tea while watching the sunrise, doing gentle stretches, or journaling. One viewer, Frank, told me he starts every day with 10 minutes of deep breathing on his porch. He says it's lowered his blood pressure and helped him feel more centered than he has in years. But it's not just about relaxation. Living alone means you're more attuned to your body's signals. You notice when you need to rest, when a certain food doesn't sit right, or when it's time to call the doctor. It's like becoming your own best advocate, and that kind of self-awareness is priceless. Of course, I'm not saying it's always easy. Some days, motivation slips, or loneliness creeps in. But here's the secret. Those challenges, they're opportunities to grow. And the more you lean into them, the more resilient you become. Now, I know you're wondering, what's the final surprise that ties all this together? Well, that's where the magic happens, because when confidence, health, and self-discovery click into place, something truly special unfolds. And trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how it all comes full circle. Go ahead and hit pause if you need to, but don't go too far. We're saving the best for last. And here we are, the final surprise, the one that ties all these threads together. You've rediscovered yourself, deepened your connections, built confidence, and prioritized your health. But what does it all mean? Well, my friend, the fifth benefit is this. Life becomes an adventure again. That's right, adventure. Not the kind that requires climbing mountains or hopping on planes, though you absolutely can, but the kind where every day feels like yours to design. Living alone means there's no one to negotiate with, no compromises, just the freedom to say, what do I want today? Take Ruth, for example. At 81, she lives alone in a little apartment in Seattle. Last year, she decided to start a Yes Year, where she says yes to one new experience every month. She's taken a salsa class, volunteered at an animal shelter, and even went stargazing with a local astronomy group. She told me, I've laughed more in the past year than I did in the previous decade. And that's the magic. When you're solo, you're not just living, you're curating a life that sparks joy on your terms. Now, let's tie this all together. When you embrace solitude, you're not just getting by, you're giving yourself permission to thrive. You reconnect with passions you thought were lost, build relationships that truly fill your cup, and discover strengths you didn't know you had. You listen to your body, honor your rhythm, and wake up each morning thinking, what's possible today? That's not just living alone, that's living fully. So, if you take one thing from our time together, let it be this. Your age isn't a limit, it's a launch pad. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every year under your belt is proof of the resilience and wisdom you've earned. And this chapter? It's yours to write exactly as you please. Before we go, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these surprises resonated most? Was it the joy of rediscovering an old hobby, the pride in tackling something new, or maybe the peace of those quiet mornings? Let me know in the comments. Your insights might be the spark someone else needs. And if this video brought you a little hope or a smile, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with a friend who might need a boost, and subscribe if you haven't already. Together, let's keep proving that life after 70 isn't about slowing down. It's about stepping into your light. Thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, friend, you're not just surviving solo, you're thriving. Here's to your next adventure, and all the beautiful, unexpected ones still to come.